Hello, this is the infographic that I created using Canva. The topic is experimental design. This is a topic that I teach to my 8th graders in science class. I teach mini lessons on the components, but this course inspired me to create a go-to reference for my students as they put all the components together when they're designing experiments. This infographic is not intended to replace the mini lessons and the practice opportunities and the sheets that we do, but rather to complement them so that the students can keep the sequence and each component's key information straight for themselves. I've arranged the components in order from top to bottom because a person reads top to bottom as they scan across left to right. The top left atom image anchors the starting point for reading. The subtitles for the sections are all centered from in each step to show the progression from one to the next, because order is important when designing an experiment. Furthermore, I have arranged the graphic components of each level in a bit of a zigzag pattern. So we start here, 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 here. The eyes kind of draw to the middle here, to the right, and then back down to the bottom left. My rationale for this is twofold. First, in interior design, when decorating bookshelves, you are supposed to set up the shelves so that the eye is drawn in a zigzag pattern from the top left to the bottom right. And each of these levels reminded me of a shelf in a unit of bookshelves. Second, while the order of the steps is important for my students to follow so that they are successful, I also wanted to communicate the fluid nature of scientific thinking and planning. The question mark is top left, then the eye moves towards the red book in the bottom right, then towards here, then towards here. Part of why the eye is drawn here in predict is because of the circle and because of the red letter font. Again, the circle is darker and it has red, so the eye is drawn directly below for keep it under control. Speaking of color, I used pops of red letters or words to highlight key points of importance. So the red here, specifically too, in the independent variable and the dependent variable, the I is intentionally red, as is the number 1, because I teach my students that the I in Roman numerals would be 1, and that the independent variable is what I, as the scientist, decide is going to be the one factor that I change to test the effect of that change. So this is a correlation to help the students keep straight the independent variable compared to the dependent variable, D for dependent, D for data. So again, that color coding is intentional to help the students. I made the control circle larger and darker here to drive home the point that the control is the key thing. In this whole layer here, the control is what's really important. But then before moving on to plan it out, this banner of constants is kind of like a little speed bump, and you got to pause and take a look at that, because that's also important as part of a controlled experiment, that you have constants. All the other factors other than the independent variable are kept the same between your test setup and the control setup. The overall tone of this infographic is calming as a result of the teal and blue colors used, and this tone was intentional. Blue is known to be a calming color, and my goal was to reduce students' stress about this process. It can be a bit overwhelming for students, and what I liked about this design for the infographic is that it seems to chunk out each level, each step in the process, and by chunking out a multi-component process, again, that can make the process seem less overwhelming for students and reduce student anxiety. So through the use of color, graphics, layout, typography, I have put together this infographic that I actually really like, and I'm really excited that I created this and am eager to use this with my students.